I'm tired. Been a long weekend. I'll hang out here for a minute. Let a few people jump on in here. I know some people are coming in a little late. I'm gonna have that on them big jobs. Oh, that. Oh man, I'm about ready for a nap. About ready to go to bed. Sometimes these daggum lives, man, I love doing them with you guys, but good lord, I have a long weekend like this weekend. I sit here, I'm like, 8:30 bedtime would sound nice, but 9 o'clock will do. Well, we'll go ahead. Let me find my record button. And if I kick this thing up, kick this thing off. So I told you it's gonna be a long night, been a long weekend. Oh, as always, this week's episode is brought to you by Deep Roots Rifle Company. Elevated excellence rooted in integrity and reliability. Use the link in the description to get on over to their website and order just about everything you'll need to get into the woods this fall. From a fully custom rifle built in-house to flashlights to help you find your way in the dark. And be sure to tell them that UPO sent you. I need to get a hold of Peter over there and see what, last week we talked about those muzzleloaders. I wonder if he can build me a smokeless muzzleloader. Be pretty sweet. Or just a custom regular muzzleloader rifle. I love muzzleloaders, man. Build me a flintlock. But that's not why we're here. It's kind of along the same trend, though. Still covering some outdoors myths we all believed, but they're just not true. That's all there is to it. So we're going to focus on commonly believed myths in the hunting and fishing and outdoors spectrum, where they came from and why they stuck around, and the real truth behind them. So, like, when I think of, here's one I think that's been largely debunked, even with recent studies out of Missouri Deer Lab, Mississippi. I don't remember which state. But that, how many of you were ever told never to hunt after a full moon? Deer don't move after a full moon. And that's just simply not true. And I think that they even came to the realization that, like, moon phases have next to zero effect on deer movement. But there were some interesting side studies. I'd like to see if they did one in correlation with hunting pressure based on the belief of moon phases. A lot of people think moon phases change how deer move. Moon phase, moon position. I think the studies show that they don't. Just need to be in the woods. So I'm going to call out some of the biggest myths in the outdoors and separating fact from bull hockey. So we're going to kick it off with number one being that you have to be silent in the woods or you'll never see anything. People believe it because hunting shows emphasize stealth and silence, and they're often associated with success, right? But what you don't see in the hunting shows is that they cut out all the mistakes, maybe a little bit of noise here or there. They're not going to show you that because then they don't look professional. They look just like you and I. But in reality, deer, hogs, and other animals are used to natural noises. Controlled, natural sounding movement like walking, like a squirrel or a turkey or a deer, it doesn't spook them. What is going to spook them though is clanking metal, right? And you can deaden that on your metal stands with stealth strips. That's why I like those. Hasmore's got some for the climber that go on the bottom, keeping that metal on metal contact sound. It's all those things you want to eliminate. So I see a lot of guys do like the paracord wrap around lock-ons and things like that. It keeps that metal on metal contact, and you'll see, and a lot of times, like when you fold a lock-on up, if you could put a piece of paracord where those metal pieces touch, so they don't go king when they touch each other. You can eliminate that metal on metal contact sound, which sounds very unnatural. Dropping your binoculars out of a tree down a ladder stand, ping, 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 ping. That's definitely unnatural. But walking through the woods, if you've been in the woods long enough, you start to realize that deer and other animals kind of have a cadence in the way they move. And you can attempt to mimic that cadence. There's definitely a difference in the cadence of a four-legged walk and a bipedal walk. Uh, I, but you don't need to freak out if you're walking and you snap a stick. There's a lot of things to snap a stick. If you think you're making a lot of noise, you can always stop and stand, depending on what time. In the mornings, slow and methodical. Try to be as quiet as I can, but I'm not super concerned with being dead quiet, right? In the afternoons or the midday, I'm going to move slower, kind of hunt my way to the tree or hunt my way to where I'm going to sit. So you're walking a little bit, you're stopping, you're looking, walking a little bit, stopping, looking. You might find a deer on the way there and get real lucky, right? Or you don't, and now you just kind of match that cadence and hopefully bring yourself more success by the time you get there. Next one would be you have to gut a deer immediately or the meat's ruined. That is entirely untrue. This came from old school wisdom from hot southern hunts. Even in hot southern hunts down here in Florida, still not true. Reality, yes, heat matters. But if temps are cool and the deer is in shade, you got about 2 to 4 hours. But still, you got to think, in order for the meat to spoil, the temperature has to completely drop to ambient and then rise again. And then your meat's going to spoil. 2, depending on the shot you made, the meat doesn't start to, that clock doesn't start until the deer is dead. That's all there is to it. So if you made a bad shot and you're thinking, I'm going to let it lay. You get to trailing it in, you get 200 or 300 yards, you bump the deer, and it moves and beds back down. You let it lay and expire. That meat's not going to start to spoil until the deer is completely dead. So your 2 to 4 hour timer starts then. And then even when you get the guts out, you still need to make sure, especially if you're hot in a place that's hot, you're getting the meat in cool area. Whether that means I've gone as far as to gut a deer, go to the gas station if I know I'm not going to be able to get somewhere as quick as I'd like to. Buy a few bags of ice, pack the body cavity with ice, keep the meat cool, do what you got to do. On the same hand, I've shot 2 deer in the morning with a high of like 38, 41, something like that, somewhere in that high 30s, low 40s range. Gutted them, hung them, let them hang all day on the side of a barn. Hunted that afternoon, went home, dropped down into the low 20s that night, kept them covered in the bed of the truck with a moving blanket, got up the next morning and took them to the processor, and the meat was fine. Perfectly fine. Prioritize safety and efficiency. Clean soon, but don't panic. Okay. You can also take some time to recognize what rotten meat feels like. And hot tip, that'll also help you identify good roadkill. And don't be ashamed to pick up roadkill. That's can be good stuff. I one time we watched a semi, like 3 pigs, just right across the head on the side of the road. None of the meat tore up, nothing. Loaded them up in the back of the truck, took them back to camp, skinned them out, quartered them up, took them home. And we're having a barbecue, and I cooked up a couple of pork shoulders out of those, served them to the neighbors. She's like, "Oh, this is delicious. What is it?" I was like, "It's roadkill." Never know the difference. I hadn't told you. You just think it's pork or whatever else. I've eaten roadkill venison, roadkill pig. I'm sure other roadkill critters. It's dead. Dead's dead. Doesn't matter how it died. And freezer meat's freezer meat. So here's a big one. Bigger caliber doesn't always mean a quicker kill. And this is, the 6.5 hater crowd. A gut shot with a 300 Win Mag is not near as good as a 243 right behind the shoulder. And for those that don't know, a 243 is a 6mm bullet versus a 6.5mm bullet out of a 6.5 Creedmoor. And it's got less powder behind it because of the way the casing, you can pack more powder in a Creedmoor casing because of the neck, the angle of the neck. And besides, over the years, there's been more deer lost to the 30-06 than the 270 than there has the 6.5 Creedmoor. Let's be honest. We all know it's true. I hunt with a 6.5 Creedmoor. I like my 6.5 Creedmoor when I do hunt with my rifle. Low recoil, effectively kills deer. I think the biggest problem with the 6.5 Creedmoor, the biggest downfall to it, is that it came out, I would think, almost first as a target round. So a lot of the rounds that are available for it, there's a lot of factory loaded target ammunition for the 6.5 Creedmoor. And I think a lot of issues guys are having with that are because they unknowingly bought target ammo over hunting ammo. I have not had a single issue shooting a deer with a 6.5 Creedmoor with expandable hunting ammunition, and the deer, if it ran, having an excellent blood trail of the deer that I've shot with the 6.5 Creedmoor. One ran, and it looked like I dumped a 5-gallon bucket of blood the 70 yards it went. I guess technically 2 ran, but the other one kind of didn't run as much as it just moved backwards and fell down the hill about 20 yards. It didn't really run anywhere. Everything else was dropped where it stood. Why that matters, though, like the reality of the shot placement is king over bullet size, is you're teaching young and new hunters that ethics and precision are better than firepower. You don't have to beat your shoulder up just to kill deer. This one's going to hurt some feelings. Hunting over bait means it's guaranteed. The belief is if you put corn out in a corn, but if you put corn or a feeder out, you'll get an easy kill. In reality, the animals, especially mature deer, often go nocturnally bait. Overhunting baited sites will educate them really fast. You're going to get the young, dumb deer. You may see does there. Just recently, have I ever even seen or shot at deer under a feeder? I've hunted near a feeder. But every time I've shot at deer, they haven't been near the feeder. My son shot 2 deer a couple years ago, standing directly under the feeder, a doe and a little 5-point. But other than that, the deer, and I say they're near the feeder. The feeder is in one end of the food plot, and I'm shooting deer at the other end of the food plot who could give 2 shits about the feeder being there. They're just there mainly because the food plot's there, not necessarily the feeder. But the feeder doesn't guarantee anything. What I do like feeders for, and bait sites for, is data collection. Give give you a better survey of what's on the area on the property because you're going to get deer to stand still for a second. But if you're going to use bait, you can hunt over it. But like I said, the chances you're killing your mature deer there are a lot slimmer than other places on your property. So, but you can use bait strategically, like I said, to inventory or draw. But you combine it with the wind and kind of hunt on the routes that are going to your bait. Same goes for your food plot. And I found this effective on food plots, agriculture, everything I've done. I've gone, I see you drive by right at dark. You got a big agriculture field and you drive by and you look out and you go, man, that sucker's full of deer. But it's right there at that cusp of dark. This is the only time they're out in the field. You can't really get a good shot, can't really see, and you're really pushing the legality of last light. But if you'll go 400 yards into the woods from where you see those deer in that field or down the trail from where they're coming from and hunt, they're there at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They're in a staging area. You can do the same with bait. You can go in and sit on trails leading to the feeder in different spots. And you can test that with your trail cameras to see what you're seeing, if you're seeing deer there or not, what time of the day you're seeing them there, and then hunt those areas leading to the feeder or leading to the food plot, agriculture, whatever you're going to do. So let's talk about some fishing myths that need to die. Bass stop biting in the heat of the day. Bass stop biting for me as soon as I hit the water, and that's not a myth. The origin is many anglers believe leaving by 11 a.m., so they assume many anglers leave by 11 a.m., so they assume the bite's over. Reality, the fish go deeper, really late to shadows, structure, or feed in short windows in the heat of the day. And the tips for that would be to slow your retrieve down. Use finesse tactics or fish current edges. My go-to for catching bass is topwater in the morning because I love topwater bite. Love throwing a frog or a spook. And then the rest of the time, until it gets the same twilight in the afternoon, is to fish with a Senko worm. Works every time. Works 100% of the time, 10% of the time. Fish don't bite before a storm. In reality, the barometric pressure drops before a storm often activates fish. The danger is you've got a short window. Don't risk lightning. I've been, because you're sitting there holding that graphite rod, and you got, if you're down here in Florida off the coast, you got T-tops, you got outriggers, all these lightning rods hanging off a boat, antennas. You don't want to get zapped, especially out on the water. Because one, you're already screwed. One, if you get struck by lightning. Two, if you're in the middle of the lake, you're even harder to get to, so you just don't want that to happen. I've been in some hairy situations where you start feeling the static electricity. It's time to get the heck out of there. When you feel the wind shift and the clouds roll in, that's go time. The more expensive the lure, the better it catches. Reality is the old inline spinners, soft plastics, and even worms outfish $20 crankbaits pretty often. And $20 anymore is pretty damn cheap for a crankbait. But focus on your confidence and presentation. It's going to matter more than price, what you're confident with. And maybe that's why I stick to that Senko worm. That's why I like to fish jerkbait. Got an old Rapala jerkbait, and I've sat there. I went fishing one day with Chris, and he was telling me, you should fish with this. You should fish with that. And I was like, buddy, I think I'm doing all right. As I'm just bringing in fish after fish after fish after fish on that old Rapala jerkbait. So now we're going to go into some outdoor myths, just general outdoor myths. Moss grows on the north side of a tree. The truth is that moss grows on the shady side, which could be the north side, but not always, depending on your terrain. If you're in, like dense woods or valleys, most sides could be shady. You can use it as a clue, but not a compass. I don't like to trust my compass on my phone. I found that the compass on this Garmin watch that I have on usually rings pretty true to my lens-static compass that I carry in my chest pack, which we went over a few episodes back. We got turned around one night, blood trailing a wounded doe that a buddy shot with his bow, and pulled the compass out on the phone, the old iPhone, and I said, I know the road we're on is running north to south, and we walked in west. I said, so what we need to do, we walked west off the road, so we need to go east. East will take us back to the road. So he pulls up the phone. It says, this way is east. I was like, I really don't think that's east. I think that's closer to south. And I was like, I think we need to walk that way. And sure enough, we took off that way. I said, just give me 15 minutes of break and brush. And if we haven't hit our trail or a trail, we'll turn and haul. Now, I had pretty good experience with that area. I'd been in that area a lot outside of hunting. So I knew if I could come to a hard trail that I could find my way out of there. And we did hit a hard trail, and I was not right, but not wrong either. It wasn't exactly east. It was more of a southeast, which would have eventually brought us out to the road, but a lot further away from the truck than we wanted to be. I ended up getting us back to where we dropped all our gear at a T intersection. We came out about 70 yards shy of that T intersection on the side trail. So we were able to pick up our gear and get back to the truck. Did not find that deer. So you can start a fire with 2 sticks. Now, this is oddly enough a true myth. It's fact. You can. If conditions are perfect, they've got to be perfect. If you have the time, you have dry materials, you have perfect form, no wind or moisture, it's just got to be perfect. So basically, no. Because if you're down to trying to start a fire with 2 sticks, you're probably up Schitt's Creek without a paddle. That goes back to, like I have in my chest pack, I've got the ferro rod and I've got my lighter. And what do we have on that lighter? We've got 100 feet of duct tape wrapped around it. Because duct tape is also a great thing to have, man. Band-Aids, fixing small repairs, patching holes in rain suits, patching a hole in your pants. And it's all on my lighter. And it works. It's a decent fire starter if you need to. So that's about what I got for myths. I think it's some more myths. Moss grows on the north side of the tree. Yeah. Look back through my notes here. I've had deer, talk about the gutting a deer immediately before the meat's ruined. The first doe I ever shot with a bow, I had a low of 38 that night. And I didn't make a bad shot on her as much as my flashlight died right at dark and I just couldn't find her. Got to her the next morning, came back to where I was the day before, searched around, found her the next morning, and she was not, the meat was not spoiled. Got her gutted out, no stench. She stayed cool enough overnight that stuff didn't rot. Got her taken to the processor, fine as wine. Ate like there was nothing wrong with it. And back to the sound stuff in the morning or in the afternoons. I covered this too. I carry little mouth calls for turkeys in my bag. I don't know how well it actually works, but that goes the same with the confidence thing, right? I'll give a little cluck, little putt, little purr as I move around, moving really slow through the woods. Always eyes front, scanning. What I like to do is when I stand still, first thing I do when I stop is I look at my surroundings and I'm watching, looking for deer, whatever else. And the next thing I do is I look at the direction I want to head and I pick my path through the woods. And I'm looking at, okay, in the next 10 feet, I'm going to need to go around this bush. There's dead limbs, this, that, and the other one. I'm going to go over, around, under. And then I'll decide how I'm going to get there. And then I set off in that course. Very slowly, watching in front of me, not my feet. I took the time while I stood still after I scanned to look for any deer or anything else, to then look at the ground, make sure I'm not going to step on a rattlesnake between here and there. I mean, it's always possible if they came out while I'm moving, but I'm not going to step on a rattlesnake between here and there. I'm not going to I identify sticks or twigs and things that could break any hazards, all that. I'm looking at that, and then I'm going to move from where I stand to my next point, which may be 10 feet away. And I'm moving 10 feet at a time, nice and slow. That's how you really want to move through the woods, and that's going to keep you focused on what's in front of you. Don't walk through the woods looking at your feet. Don't walk around, period, looking at your feet. When you're walking around through the woods, especially looking at your feet, that's when all of a sudden you're not going to know there's a deer there until it takes off, and what was that? Then you look up when you hear it running, and all you see is the tail. What really sucks when you see that tail, and it's behind a nice set of antlers going through the woods. That's why you want to, when you stop, look around, learn to identify. Easiest way to look for deer for me a lot of times is deer are a horizontal line in a vertical forest. So you're going to see that different, the back line of the back. You're looking for small identifying markers, the white patch on the throat right here. A lot of deer, maybe a little white on the chest, the flicker of the white when the tail moves. There's always some part of a deer that's moving. They're never standing completely still. The tail's going to flicker a little bit. The ears are going to turn. So you'll catch those moving. You'll catch the pink on the inside of the ear, or the sun when it hits their wet nose makes that shiny spot. You just key in on those things, the little tiny things. That's what you're going to pick up on. So when you're standing there, that's what you're looking for. Is you're looking eyes first, head second, because that deer is going to pick up on your movement. So eyes, and bring the head around to the eyes. And that's how you should be moving in the tree stand too. Look in your eyes, move your head. All the way to your peripheral, move your head. And bring it back around so that you're watching with the least amount of movement. And then when you catch that deer, it's going to be, you're either going to, you're going to look in your peripheral, not see anything. You're going to get your head all the way around and get a good clear focus. And there's going to be a deer standing there. At that point, you're both in a staring contest. And the old Mexican standoff. But you'll have that. Be still, be quiet, hope for the best. If they give you a chance, take it. That's a deer you want to take anyway. But I think that's all I got covered. Need to find some more hunt and miss. So you guys got some more hunt and miss. I'd love to hear them. I can't think of any off the top of my head, mainly because I'm about ready to go to sleep right here in this chair. But those are just a few, and it's fun. Those are always fun. But we'll catch you guys next week. I'll hang out a minute, chit chat. Other than that, my big old butt's going to bed. Adios. Oh. Who I got in here with me? I see you guys on the live chat counter. Nobody's talking to me. Let me hear it. Y'all got any common misconceptions? Things you wonder if they're fact or fiction? I got a beer to finish before I hit the hay. This is what everybody who only listens on Wednesdays misses out on because I don't record this for that show. You guys get the specialty here. Or I guess you could come back and watch it a second time. Watch it on YouTube on Wednesdays, but really got to be here live to get the full effect. Well, I'm going to head to bed. I'll holler at you. Y'all have good. Have fun. Be good.